You're listening to the Josh Parnell Leadership Podcast. We all have leadership within us, and once we understand how to challenge perceived limitations, we're able to influence those we're leading. Josh is a leadership coach, trainer, and speaker. He's also a veteran of the United States Air Force with over 20 years of leadership experience. Are you ready to transform your leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results? Let's get ready for liftoff. It's time to go from great to greater. Here's Josh in today's episode.
Welcome to the Josh Parnell Leadership Podcast. Whether it's inspirational guests like the one we have here today or jam-packed episodes regarding all things leadership, the goal here is quite simple, is to reach people and build leaders. And we know that you're listening here today because you want to raise your leadership lid and live today to make an impact for tomorrow. So sincerely, thank you for being here. Let's get into today's episode. And again, I always say this, but I always mean it. I'm excited about today's guest because today's guest is a friend of mine. He's a husband, he's a father, he's an author, a speaker, and he is a developer of dads. Our guest today is Kevin Goodnight. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Man, so good. A lot of cool things here. First and foremost, we're live in your house.
Yes.
This is really cool in the studio here. And let me honor you real quick before we dive in. What I love most about you is not only that you do serve our country and that you are a man on mission, but what I love is when I know that we're going to meet, I don't have to shave. It's the best. I literally had to look in the mirror this morning and go, oh, I got to shave. And then I go, no, I'm hanging out with Josh, the bearded leader.
Hey, man, beards are welcome. Beards are always welcome.
It's a little scruffy today, but dude, love what you're doing. Love how you're leading. Love how you're leading a legacy. And that's so cool how me and you linked up through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And how we've had a coffee and a lot of text messages and pumped to be here today, man.
Well, man, I'm pumped that you're here, and I appreciate you for sharing that, Kevin. And that does truly mean the world to me. But I love what you're doing. And today's episode, the timing is perfect. Father's Day is this upcoming weekend, and what you're doing for fathers really is immeasurable. You have a book here that if you're watching this episode on YouTube, I'm holding the book up right now. The book is called Dadvoted, Dads Devoted to Discovering Their Duty, Direction, and Destiny. So we're going to talk about this book. I want to find out about the name Dadvoted, and find out why you wrote this book. But before we do that, tell us about yourself.
Yeah. I love it, man. It's been a crazy journey and glad to be sitting here. And really, it's I live in the suburbs of Houston. My wife, Keely, and I have been married for coming up on 18 years. We have two boys, 13-year-old and 11-year-old boys. We're in the throes of it. You name it, acting and art and baseball and football and swim and you name it. We're in the throes of raising teens. And man, there's just such a beautiful journey to have just a great wife and a support and being close in Houston to our family that lives all around us here in this town.
So two kids, and so if you're listening to this episode, you notice Kevin mentioned he's got a 13-year-old and 11-year-old, junior high-ish age.
Oh yeah.
My wife and I also have 4 children. 3 of them are in the junior high-ish age, and so if you're listening and you have junior high or middle school kids, this is going to be the episode for you.
Yeah.
Maybe we can all learn how to parent better together. But well, Kevin, let's talk. You left your corporate job. You took this jump or step of faith. I like to call it a step of faith rather than a leap of faith.
Yeah.
But you took this jump recently. Let us know how long ago it was, what prompted the jump, and talk about what got you into what you're doing today.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was a corporate guy, man. I've 20 years building teams, leadership and development, running high-powered teams, and I walked away from it and to go on this mission for dads. And it's one of those things. I would love to say there was this light bulb or this epiphany moment, and really, look, I'm gonna bring a little bit of Jesus today, if you're okay.
Let's do it.
Full of faith. I'm not smart enough to do this on my own, and there was no, water parting moment, but there was a lot of little moments of nudging me to make this. I mean, dude, I had the paycheck. I had everything that you would say that the world says is what you're doing. I'm leading a team. I've got the paycheck. I got the white picket fence. I got all what you say. And all of a sudden I go, I'm going to go this way. And I'm going to take this big, big step. But here's the thing. And there was a crazy journey I went through to uncover and change from my work being my purpose to my work being my platform. And here was my prayer. My prayer was like, God, I want my platform and my purpose to become one. And I'm writing a book right now on legacy that I've actually put it on the shelf for a little bit. But the whole thing is there's these levels we go through of we think our job is our purpose, and our job is not our purpose.
Right.
And then you go through this and you start to uncover that your job is your platform. And then you go a step further where your platform can fund your new purpose. And the last step, and a lot of people reach this step at retirement, whatever that means, is that their purpose and their platform become one. And that was my prayer. Lord, can you make my platform and purpose become one? And all he said was, go. Like, it's on you. And so that was a lot of nudges. I'm a very loyal guy. I was running the same company business for 8 years, record growth, all the crazy things, but just writing on the wall, time to go, time to get out of here, my admin had to leave the company, just all these little things that nudge. Then my cool story, maybe not for today, but my wife and my dad both released me from my job on the same day. They both said, I support you 100%. And you have to know the context. My dad, that's not who my dad is. My dad is you stay at a job for 30 years. You work that job. You move up. If you leave a job, you have to have a job. And when he called me, he said, it was nothing about insurance, cash flow. He just said, your mission is complete. It's time for you to bet on yourself.
Yeah.
I'm like, so even a father, as we talk father, I mean, a 72-year-old man still speaks truth into his 42-year-old son. But that was probably the last straw. When my wife, and she said, I will follow you to the ends of the earth. I will eat ramen if I have to. It's time for you to move on. And so what a cool testimony of that. But that was the last that said, it's time for me to get rid of that comfort and control. Men are all about comfort, control, paychecks coming in, mama's happy, everything's easy. But I had this just pull, and I know you probably had it, dude.
Man, everything you're describing, Kevin, is exactly what I went through as well. And logically, it didn't make sense for me to leave. I mean, we're talking about safety, security, the W-2, the 401k, the benefits. Why would I leave? And plus, all that, but also, I truly loved the company I was with.
Yeah.
And still do. I love the people I worked with and still do. And so logically, it did not make sense. But that was, again, you can't ignore. And I tried for months to ignore what I knew God was ultimately calling me to do. And I ignored it because I'm like, God, it doesn't make sense. Like logically, come on. Like
I think I was going to physically be removed from that job if I wasn't obedient. And I'm an obedient and go. And but you're right. The pool was like, good. I got this great paycheck. It was time to go. I got more ideas and I have time. I've got this content. I've got this. I've got all these things, and it was time to go, man. And look, I'm not telling people to leave their job. I think we need good dudes, men, women in the marketplace, especially those of faith. We need more people in there. But for me, my calling was deeper, and my identity had shifted.
Yeah.
When your identity shift, and God actually gave me a new name, which I'll get into that as we get a story. But now every decision I make is based on my identity and who He calls me.
Love that. So you obviously were getting the same pull that I know exactly what that feels like. For me, it was kind of an unexplainable peace when I finally submitted, when I finally let go and let God, as we all heard that phrase before. I had this unexplainable peace, and I'm sure you had some type of peace like that. But talk about how, okay, now you made the decision, okay, you know what? I'm going to go. I'm going to take this step. Now what? What beyond that? Tell us about how it went. Tell us about how it's going. What have you learned over the last, it's been about less than a year for you?
I launched the book a year ago.
Okay.
But walked away from corporate 9 weeks ago, man.
9 weeks. So, man, you were still in the throes of it.
Startup mode.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so let's talk about it. How did it go initially, and how is it going just a short, 2.5 months later?
I will say complete, there is complete joy. Now, again, I'm type A driver, like wake up, like here we go.
Yep.
And I've had to slow down a little bit, and I've had to enjoy this season. That's been like, hey, enjoy this season. I can go to the awards banquet without having to put it on my calendar per se. I mean, I have a calendar, but I'm able to just on a whim help my wife or do something more. So I've enjoyed this season. I'm actually reading and studying more, which is a whole different, like, okay, I'm going to write in this season. When I wrote the book, it was get up at 5, quiet time, write the book, work out, go to the job, come home, dad, write the book. It was just like, Now it's like it's a whole different season. What I've noticed is, again, it's men of control. We want to control things, right? So I'm like, okay, we're doing this. We're going right. And right out the gate, the Lord was like, we're going to go left. And a great book somebody gave me, and it's a great leadership principle. And I'll think of it here. I may have to look it up, but the whole principle, it's the president of Belhaven University, faith-based, and his whole principle on leadership is the sailboat versus the speedboat. And it is a beautiful, and we'll get this, we'll get it, but the whole thing is, if you're in a speedboat, it's all about you. You crank it up. You put the gas in. You white knuckle it. You're by yourself. Mm-hmm. Sailboat, you have a team. There's multiple people. You have to do all the prep work, and then you have to wait. But you wait, and that wind is the Spirit blowing you, and you go further and longer and stronger in the direction God's sending you. So that was the hardest thing for me. Was I want to control and white knuckle, and we're going this way. We're going to coach men. I only need is 3 men a month. And those first 3 men, I had them lined up. They all backed out on day one. And I'm like, what? I'm supposed to be developing dudes. We're going for this thing. And right out the gate, the Lord was like, no, we're going to go this way. And week 1, spring break. Week 2, I go to a training. I've been asked to come under this amazing organization called Legacy Stone. And they're leading family legacy summits, talking about mission, vision, and values. There's some really cool things. Within the first 5 minutes of sitting with them, they're like, we have a different conversation. We'd like to maybe talk to you about joining our team. And so by the time this publishes, this may be announced, but that's okay. We're in good conversations of partnering and launching their fatherhood ministry, which, that's again, something that I hear, Kevin, local Houston, all of a sudden you get powered with these guys, and it's not even only national, it's international movement for dads.
Incredible.
And so I can't do it all. That's me going, okay, here's where I go. The Lord says the wind's going to blow you this way. Now, up and down, I'm a dude, up and down, trying to figure out, okay, what are we doing? Are we going to make this payment? Are we going to do this? But, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of complete dependence, right?
Yeah.
And I know it's not of my doing.
Go fast alone, go further together. Yeah. That's the whole concept, right? You mentioned how you're in the season right now where you have time. And for a lot of listeners, time is, one of the most precious commodities that we do have. And a lot of us say that we don't have it. Like, we simply don't have the time. Yeah. And that's where I say, let's make the time. As a father, you know how important it is to make time for your family. There's a lot going on, especially with work and with church and with extracurriculars and all these things going on. And time is just hard to come by. Just prior to the recording of this, we were talking about, I just got a tattoo on my hand where when I look at my watch and I'm looking at the time, the tattoo says, be still. And be still for me is, it's the first part of Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I am God, because there's been plenty of times in my own life where, much like you mentioned, Kevin, like we're trying to do things our way, and all of a sudden God's like, no, hey, like, chill out. I got this, just let me do my thing. Or as my kids would say, let him cook. Yeah. So I'm trying to let God cook, right? And so, but also it's a reminder where when I'm looking at my watch and I'm like, okay, how much time do I have? What am I doing? I got a lot going on. You mentioned you're kind of a go kind of person. Our children are not going to be this age for, forever, right? And they grow up so fast. I mean, they truly and we've all heard this even before you have kids. Oh, kids grow up so fast. But it's so true. Like they grow up so fast. And it's also a reminder for me to just, hey, be still, be present in their life right now. I want to ask you, Kevin, you are, I'm going to say it. You may not say it, but I'm going to say it. I believe you to be a fatherhood expert. Okay. So, you got the book. Let's talk about the book Dadvoted. Let's talk about why the name, and let's talk about some ways that we can show up for our kids as fathers.
Yeah, let me back up 2 steps. The book I referenced earlier is called Opportunity Leadership. Okay. So we can put that in the show notes. Great book on just how to lead without strategic planning. It's, it's a great, you need it just for what you do. Sure. The other thing before we talk about the book, too many dads are thinking, they picture this, it's going to be tomorrow. We'll start tomorrow. And what they don't realize is the biggest impact years that they have are when the child is from 5 to 11. And there's the mother impact years, 0 to 5. The father impact years are 6 to 12. So there's a lot of overlap. But so many of us are like, okay, well, when they get to 13 or 14 or 15, well, what we're missing is by the time a child turns 13, they're all about their peers. So if you haven't laid the foundation yet, I'm not saying you're hosed, but you're going to be backpedaling because you've got, and I almost missed it. We'll talk about my story.
Sure.
I'm this fatherhood guru, dude. I was a hot mess up until 2 years ago leading this. I was not the father I was called to be. So anyways, I think so many men are thinking, okay, well, they're 5 right now. They're whatever. They're so young. Okay, they're 8 right now. Well, we'll get to it. They're 12. By the time they turn 13, it's all about their peers. So if we want their peers to teach them, or do we want to teach them as their father? So I think that's probably the biggest fatherhood advice I could give you today is man, jump in now.
Well, but I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
But more advice, because what advice would you have for, let's say I'm a listener and I'm a father and my kids are 15 and 17.
You've already missed it.
Yeah. And so what advice would you have for fathers who have missed that window? How can they do their best to kind of connect beyond that window?
Yeah, every story, every situation is different. I mean, we've got lots of things. I mean, you could be blended families. It could be all, but just the bare bones basics. There's probably some humble pie that needs to be eaten. If they're 15 and you're like, you know what, I missed this huge part of their life and here's what it was. Sometimes it's going to them. And we'll talk about I sat my kids down. I was like, guys, I got a drinking problem. I told my kids that I've got this problem. And they were, granted, this was 2 years ago. So they were 11 and 9. But I almost missed that window and I was on a bad trajectory. And so sometimes it is just that. Here's what's happened. Sincerely apologize. And here's what I want to do to rebuild this. And here's what we're going to do. And then do it. That's the hard part. It's this. So many times these dads give these heartfelt speeches and then go back about their day. I'm leading teams and look, we're workers. We're hard workers. We are providers, but we're not. That's so many of us men think that's just our identity. That's secondary. That's down the road. But we're wired to lead. We're wired to lead our families. And sometimes it is, you got to take a step back and say, look, I messed up and here's what we're going to do moving forward. So every situation is different based on the magnitude of trauma and other things. Sure. For the most part, a lot of times it's just showing back up, man.
Well, and to your point, man, is taking action, like talking the talk and walking the walk, being able to like talk about something, but actually take action. You shared with me the first time you and I met for coffee. How many days now? Do you know exactly how many days you've been sober now?
It's my mom might know. It's pushing 650. We're pushing 650, coming up on 2 years.
That is incredible.
650. Yeah. So I've got a counter on the phone here, but now
and congratulations.
Yeah, man.
That's nothing to just glaze over. Like that is an incredible accomplishment, and more props to you, Kevin, for truly doing exactly what you said you're going to do. Say what you mean and mean what you say.
Yeah.
And you're sitting your kids down. I know that couldn't have been an easy discussion to have.
Yeah.
But that was such a humble and vulnerable admission and a declaration that you're going to be a different father for them moving forward. And you've shown just that.
Yeah, and I got called up I spoke at a men's event a couple weeks ago. Here's such a cool thing, man. I got so many cool stories as we go here. But my kids had a school day off. And so the night before, I said, hey, I'm speaking tomorrow in Dallas. Would y'all be willing to come up? I mean, a 13-year-old, 11-year-old, I'm sitting there going, there's no way. They both said, yes, we want to come with you. I'm like, that's awesome. So we drive to Dallas. They're slinging books, dude. They're like little hustlers. I mean, they're swiping credit cards, taking money for books. And they call my boys up without my knowledge. And I'm okay. I didn't bother me. Come up on stage and tell me about your dad since his change.
Wow.
And my first son said he set a goal to write a book and he actually did it. And he just I get chills talking. You're getting your 13-year-old to go, my dad set a goal and he did it. I mean, I'm like, reached the pinnacle. And then they hand this microphone to my other son and ask him the same question. What's the biggest change in your dad? And he literally said, I'm just so thankful my dad's not staying out late drunk.
Wow.
I mean, so he was 9 when all this, and before all this was happening. And so it's just such a, it's never too late, man. If I could wrap that in a bow, it's never too late, and we're never, and I had some humbling moments with my kids, but we have real conversations. We don't sugarcoat.
Yeah.
We talk about things. They ask me questions, and if I don't know, I pump the brakes. My wife's way smarter than me, and she's getting her master's in counseling. I call her a lot of my unsighted insight comes from my wife. But dude, it's just about that. It's about living life with your kids, being in the throes. You're a family team.
Yeah.
We're not trying to raise these kids to be independent and go out on their own. We're a family team. We're a family unit. So
Man, Kevin, you and I have more in common than I thought. So my wife also, she has her master's in counseling. And,
Oh, awesome.
man, she is the best coach, the best teacher in my life. So given the fact that I'm a leadership coach, for my career, but I'm married to the best coach I have.
Yeah.
And so, man, a good friend of mine just the other day shared how for leaders, the best ability is availability. And I've got to, I'm thinking how like that goes hand in hand with fatherhood. And being a father to children, just be available.
Yeah.
Just be there for them. I mean, they want your time.
Yeah. When they're little, 0 to 5, you should be on the floor playing with them 30 minutes a day. Just playing with them, reading to them. It's just being there. Put that dadgum phone far away. When I get home, I put it in the drawer. I put it on Do Not Disturb. I just turned it on silent, put it in the drawer. When we go to a restaurant, I hand my phone to my wife because otherwise it's going to be on the table. And look, if I have the phone right here, we got a barrier.
Yeah.
But just right here, we don't have a barrier. So these are the things that it's fatherhood, that's life, that's relationships, that's marriage. It's just just being intentional, being available. Look, if we're going to go, Christ was available, right? He was always available.
Yeah.
And he didn't give people the "why'd you come at me" look. Maybe so sometimes when he was praying or other things, but he was always available. And I think that's what we're trying to model our life of, is for those that are believers, man. And that's the biggest leadership lessons we can learn right
100%, 100%. So you're talking about being a devoted father. I mean, I've got to assume that there's a play on words there. Dadvoted is the name of your book.
Yeah, buddy.
Kevin, if you had to just share with the listeners a couple, one or two key pieces of your book.
Yeah.
What's the overarching theme? What would you share with them?
Yeah, I go hard at men.
Okay.
I go hard at the dad. I go hard at the dude. I go hard at the heart. You can't be a father be a good father. Yeah, there's some practical fatherhood tips and techniques. And look, I talk about how to have the sex talk. I talk about other things. But at the end of the day, it's about you. You can't pour out to others and lead how you're supposed to lead if you don't have yourself right. Head and heart, right? It's both. And so I go hard foundationally at the men about building that foundation, that life. And a lot of it's faith-based and what are you rooted in, right? And then I go into some practical techniques and talk about some parenting and other things. And then I really just end hard at men. What is your legacy? My next to last chapter is about your legacy.
Yeah. And
legacy, and I'm excited to jump into your book, dude. But we talk about retirement. Retirement is it's not even biblical. But why do we, and we talk about retirement, and then we talk about legacy. We talk about tangible things, money, land. It's about intangible, about what are the intangibles that you're leaving behind for your kids. So it's really, what's that legacy mindset? What are you doing to leave a lasting legacy for your kids? And then I just stand, and then I end it with just a battle cry, dude. It's about standing firm. There's 26, 28 scriptures that have the word stand firm in there. And I just go hard at men. Are you in a cruise ship or are you in a battleship? I mean, we have to realize there is an enemy out there who wants to kill, steal, and destroy. He hates this conversation. He wants our kids to hate us. He wants us to make bad decisions so that we live in fear, guilt, and shame, and that we don't lead like we're called to lead. He also puts a lot of pressure on wives, and then when men start to make the change, the wives don't accept this change, and that cripples the man. And he's like, I'm just going to go lead at home. I'm going to go lead at the office because I'm respected at the office. So, dude, there's just this whole dichotomy that we're up against that there is a battle for our souls, for our kids' souls. And really, it's up to us to be the devoted dad that we've been called to be. And it's not a magic formula. It's just doing it, showing up every dadgum day and being a little bit different, a little bit better.
Yeah.
And line yourself up priority-wise. And I choose to line up with Christ, and the rest falls into place.
Love that.
I think my spiritual capital is good, then my mental, emotional, my physical, financial seem to follow. Huh.
And what's amazing is those are the 5 areas I talk about in my own coaching too, is spiritual, physical, emotional, academic is my word.
Yep.
And then financial. Because to your point, if you have those 5 areas of your lives, if you're at least intentionally working on those 5 areas of your life, the rest of life just kind of falls into play.
That's right.
Things just kind of fall into play.
Yeah.
So Kevin, okay, you're 42?
42
now. Okay, you've been married for 18 years, 13-year-old, 11-year-old. Take us back to Kevin Goodnight at 28. So
yeah.
You're a year away from having your first child.
Yeah.
What would you do different?
Oh, dude, I was so selfish. It was all about me. and it was all about this, building my own kingdom, awards, accolades, accomplishments, me, selfish in nature. Not a bad dude, like, got good sense of faith. I'm serving here, but it's still, at the end of the day, it was, I was getting called into leadership positions even through the church. And I'm like, dude, if these people knew how I lived my life, like I was kind of 1 foot, there wasn't even 1 foot in the world. It was like Sunday, I was that guy. I was a good believer, strong faith guy. Then Monday comes, okay, that's stick a little bit. Tuesday, okay, by Wednesday, I'm a hot mess express. And it's like, no, church, faith, Christian, religion, all this, it's all about the heart, and it's about people, man. And so I would freaking punch 28-year-old.
That's the action you would take. I'd punch him in the face.
Shake him up. I wasn't doing any really leadership and development. I'd always been the youngest, growing, running the largest. I had good mentors. I just got these great opportunities. And I kind of stopped growing. I'm in better shape at 42 than I was at 32.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I played college football. Like I came from a basis of working out. And there was just so much that I didn't understand. And look, some of that's life and learning, but there's so much, if I would have just aligned myself up with better people and actually not just, I call it male PMS. I was all about power, money, status, boom, 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 growing. And that's based on more PMS, pride, materialism, and selfishness. I was just so I love the Lord, but then it was all about me those other 6 days of the week. Eventually that started to shift. And it's like, no, being a believer church is 1 hour, 2 hours, depending on where you go, a week, 168 hours. What are you doing the other 166? How are you living your life?
Yeah.
And that's where it sticks. And that's when change happens. And I recently sat with a guy and he was like, dude, how are you so bold in faith? And then I told him like 7 or 8 stories in a row, fireball of the Lord showing up, which we haven't even got to how we got the name Dadvoted yet. And he looked at me and he goes, yeah, I'd be bold.
Yeah.
Like your God's shown up so much. And I'm going, dude, that's available for everybody.
Yes.
It's not because I put on this, there's no holy water in this Dadvoted mug. I just wake up every day and go, Lord, use me. I'm a hot mess. I need you. Desperate dependence. And then let's go. Is it perfect? No. I'll say that prayer and then an hour later I'm freaking on the freeway and cutting people off, and it's Houston, man. It's crazy.
Oh, dude, it is crazy.
But that's the thing, is that desperate dependence on our Savior. If you believe that, if you truly believe that, and what's the stat I read the other day? It's 64% claim to be Christians, 4% actually are followers, like in the throttle, all in for Christ. I don't know how you can measure that. Don't judge me on that stat.
No, and what's interesting is I recently read the same thing. I want to say it's in, was it John Mark Comer's book?
Practicing the Way.
Yeah. I mean, incredible book. Speaking of which, I do want to find out the name Dadvoted.
Okay.
But I also feel like this is a good segue. I like to ask other authors this question too. And I'm going to assume that the Bible has been arguably the most impactful book in your life. Yeah. What's the second most impactful book you've ever read?
Ooh. Let me think here. That's good. I will say that keeps popping up in my head. Going back to John Mark Comer, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. It's all about slowing down, right? I might hear my voice slow down. Yeah, just talking about that. Yeah. That's probably the most impactful book that I've read lately, and I could probably rattle off 6 or 8 more. But that one, it sits on my shelf quite often. The other one is called Living Fearless or Living Fearlessly by Jamie Winship. It's all about identity. Okay, it's all about stripping false identities and replacing that with God's identity. I got that book on day 75 of sobriety. I'm praying through, God, who am I? And he asked the question. It says, ask the Lord, what's the most important thing you want to know right now? You want me to know right now. So I asked that, Lord, what is the most, I clear the room. It's beautiful prayer I read, and it's really early in the morning. Lord, what is the most important thing you want me to know right now? And I don't hear anything. So, okay. I said, Lord, what's the most important thing you want me to hear about Dadvoted? And I hear, you are a leader of dads. Well, and I'm like, looking around the room, I'm a leader of dads. Like, oh, look, you know me well enough. We've had some coffee, a couple text messages. I'm not cocky and arrogant to come walking in here, check me out, leader of dads. I'm still in the throes of it. I got a 13-year-old. Yeah. I don't know if your 17-year-old daughter came in here right now, I don't know how to deal with a 17-year-old daughter. Yeah. I'm just going to tell you, we're Googling it. but he called me a leader of dads. So he took my identity that I was an encourager and an influencer, and he renamed me leader of dads. So now I have that written on my wall. So every decision I make, I'm like, okay, does that help me walk in my identity as a leader of dads? So that book, Living Fearless by Jamie Winship, podcast him, Google him, some amazing stories of work done in the Middle East, and stories that you can't make. They should do a movie on him, like crazy God-moving stories. And that goes back to that point. The more you're rooted and grounded in Christ and living it, just good things happen. There's still some tough days. There's still some beaten downs. I get kicked in the face a lot. I struggle with lots of things. But at the end of the day, the full body of work of the stories of the things that happen to me, you just can't explain it.
So good, man. So let's talk about Dadvoted.
Yes.
We've been hinting around this for minutes now. Talk about the name, where it come from.
Yeah, I'll try to do the 4-minute elevator pitch, which is a long elevator ride. All right. Middle of the pandemic, woke up, May 2020, told my wife, hey, the Lord just told me in my dream that he's going to show up big this year. I said, I don't know what that means. She goes, good, journal, write it down. Let's pray into it. I'm like, how can the Lord show up? I just laid off 30% of my staff. My income's down 30%. We're in this pandemic. We're drinking every night on the streets. It's a frat party every night, 3:30 in the afternoon, getting after it. But I started going back and reading through my journals, and I didn't journal a lot, but I saw God moving. And I saw every time a baby came, or every time one company I was with, they shut the division down, and all these things, and I would journal, like just see God's hand. We sold our house in California, and I got a job on the same day. I'm like, that just doesn't happen, right? All the signs to point back to Texas. So I start journaling more, and I told my wife, I said, I don't know, but I pictured this could become a book. Like, I feel like I could write a book, but who writes books? I'm not an author. I'm a freaking business mogul. Look at me, right? Yeah. And she's like, press in. So I go about the year, journaling, reading, drinking 6-7 nights a week, and get to December, and we're wake up again. I'm like, the Lord's going to show up this year. He said he's going to show up before the year ends, so I'm going to fast. So I went on a fasted from alcohol for 10 days. Didn't hear anything, nothing. 11 more days goes by, and we go to a wedding. We're at this wedding, and the venue's packed. You almost got to put yourself back in 2020. Like, we had wristbands like green, red, yellow. Like, what is your scare?
Friends that
we're just like, what is this craziness? We sit at this table. Every table's packed but ours. 150, 160 people there. Our table just has one other couple, Nigerian couple, full headdress, mask. They're eating under their mask. They're very COVID conscious. They wouldn't talk to us. It was awkward. Music, accent, mask. Finally, we get to the end of dinner, and we kind of broke the ice, and she stops the dinner, and she looks at me, and she goes, you're going to write a book one day, and it's going to impact the kingdom. And I look at my wife, and I was like, is that the Lord showing up? And she's like, oh, yeah. Oh, you're an author. You're an author for the Lord. So I go, people go, the Lord told you what you're going to do. You started that night. I'm like, bro, 10 months of thinking about it. And you could probably attest to these moments. 10 months. I even want to say it's how shallow. I Googled how to write a book. It's like, hey,
you're not the only one, man. Trust me.
I'm like, is there software?
Yes.
I'm like, it's Word. It's like, and it's right. And so 10 months, disobedience, I write an outline. 2 more months, I text a professor at Texas A&M. I say, Bob, I'm a mess, bad leadership at the office. I've got this calling I got to tell you about. He responds back immediately, usually not quick to respond. He says, we're coming to your church tomorrow. We're coming from College Station, 1.5 hours into your church. Okay, cool. He hits me in the face. Well, his wife hits me in the face with, write the stinking book. Okay, so I get it. He builds, let's build out a business plan. Let's meet in a week, So we go that route. Another couple months go by. A gentleman, Antoine, comes into my office. Antoine goes, you know your God-given calling, and you're being disobedient. And then I'm like, bro, I'm the boss. You can't talk to me like that. He said, do you know how many men, even believers, will walk the whole face of this earth and never, ever know what they were called here to do, what their one life assignment, their purpose is? You know yours. I said, dude, he said, what's holding you back? I said, I drink 6 nights a week. He said, you got to figure that out. Jump in my car that afternoon, turn on my podcast. It says tomorrow's episode, we're going to tackle the topic of generational sin. And that's a whole other conversation. But basically, dude, that's what the Goodnights did. It was a behavior pattern. We drank. We get together. We drink. We're the fun. Wasn't creepy. I wasn't disrespectful completely, but I just would get after it a lot.
Yeah.
Set up more accountability a couple months after that. And I'm writing this book, and I'm like, and this is good. Like, I don't know what to call it. I thought it was going to be about raising boys, but it's about how to be a better dad and going all at dudes. And long story short, August 22nd, checked myself into a faith-based recovery program called Regeneration. It's popping up in a lot of churches around here. Beautiful 12-step recovery program, dude. I had to admit that I had a problem. And the Lord told me to wait. I said, okay, I can wait. I mean, I've been all about me for so long. Let me believe you in this and wait. Day 1, he says, wait. Day 40, I'm sitting there praying. I'm like, okay, this name's taken. This name's taken. Lord, what do you want me to call this book? And I hear the word Dadvoted. What does that mean? Devoted dads. I'm like, developing devoted dads. And I like the alliteration. I'm a junkie. Don't look at my LinkedIn. There's all kinds of alliteration. And I'm like, okay, dads. And then I Google Dadvoted. Would you like to buy this domain? Buy the domain. A week later, I'm talking to a trademark lawyer. I'm like, never thought I would be talking to a trademark lawyer. We're getting this name. And he's like, you got something good here. And we go the trademark route. 4 months later, I have a full manuscript turned into the publisher. 5 months later, May of last year, I have a book. And so here's the crazy part. Day 40, like I'm 40 years old. And on day 40 of sobriety, after a 20-year stronghold of just alcohol abuse, man, the Lord says, I'm going to do more for you. You're asking for the name of a book. I'll honor that. But I'm going to also give you the name of a mission, a ministry, and a movement for dads. And we're going to call it Dadvoted. And dude, we're off and running. Dads devoted to discovering their duty, direction, and destiny. Biggest 3 most important D's any man can uncover so that they can walk and lead and live lives of purpose and substance and lead as they have been called to lead. We're leading so good in the marketplace. Why aren't we leading at home?
Yes.
We got to be better. We got to be different. We got to be countercultural. We got to stop fitting in. We've got to make some better decisions, and we've got to say no to some things as well too. And that's the premise and the heart of this mission.
Love it.
So much so that I walked away from a freaking big boy paycheck, and I'm all in. I'm all in, brother.
Hey, if you're listening to this episode, you're not getting fired up. Like, you might be a robot. I don't know. This is. I'm getting fired up, Kevin. Man, I really, really appreciate you being on the podcast today. Love what you're doing. I mean, I'm really touched by how much you believe in what you're doing. And your belief in what you're doing makes me believe even more in what you're doing. I already believed in what you were doing.
Yeah.
But every time I talk to you, I'm like, man, like, yeah, I am. Like, I don't need to get motivated every time to believe. Like, it's your purpose.
Yeah.
You truly are living your purpose. And, you know, for me, and this may be a good kind of segue into, as we wrap up the episode, but of course it is Father's Day coming up this weekend. And so for a lot of you listeners, you have children, you want to have a better relationship with your children. Some of you listening may not have a father anymore. Maybe he has passed. And so it can be a very tough weekend for you coming up. Something that I think is so important. And if you're watching this episode on YouTube, you can see the sign in the background. I have a believe sign. And I think there are so many people who have never heard, I believe in you. And I know for me, something that my dad, who is no longer with us, shared when I was younger was how much he believes in me. And that went such a long way. And to me, if you're listening and you have never shared with your child how much you believe in them, do it.
Yeah.
It can go such a long way. And so anyway, yeah, Kevin, man, thank you again for being here. I want to ask you, how can our audience get in touch with you? And I want to share with the audience also what you're doing. You have a course coming out too. So if you want to speak about the course and share what this looks like, let us have it, man.
Yeah.
Where do we go?
Man, what a good ending to, here's what I've got to bring it back to.
Sure.
Regardless of your earthly father, you got a heavenly father. That's the most dad-voted influence we can all ever have. So I've got to give glory where glory is due. The other thing is, if for you, something simple today, leave a sticky note. Tell your kids you love them, man. It's so simple. Journal. Leave your words are more impactful than you'll ever know. So that would be my challenge and charge of just a bare bones. We like practical, simple. Leave a note for your kids. Tell them you love them, but give them something specific and encourage them. Just instill that into them that you care for them and that you love them and that you're proud of them. And then something so simple. Yeah, man. Dadvoted.com website. Heavy on LinkedIn, more under my name, Kevin Goodnight. I have a newsletter there you can follow along as well. And yeah, the newest thing on the docket, I'm writing a couple other books right now. Those are kind of slow and go, but I am launching an online course. I do some one-on-one development with men, but what I'm seeing is how do I package Dadvoted, 2 years of writing it, plus the 1 year of living it out, or 2 years of living it out, and with more stories and more insight and more excitement and key takeaways, just like I just gave you, right? The note. And so, yeah, I'm close to, I'll launch it by Father's Day. I'll have a course that'll be probably an 8 session is what it's looking like. And the coolest part of the course is for the women listeners, my wife's going to speak on the course about how women can support their husbands in helping them become a dad-voted father.
Love that.
That's probably the most exciting news. She doesn't write in this book, but for me to give her insight, I know you got a lot of gals listening. How cool is that? Like, women, you play a massive role in praying and supporting. And when your husband does make a change, that you don't bury him when he messes up, that you lift him up. So I'm this online course, I'm so pumped to get that out. And that'll be, I'll start pushing that out here heavy this week before Father's Day. And that's probably the key thing. I'm also speaking local things. I speak at churches and men's groups. So if you need somebody to speak for local, love to come bring this dad-voted word to your church, to your men's group. I'm building out some workshops as well for more of that kind of stuff. But the other thing is I have a study guide online. And I've got a lot of guys, like 6 or 8 groups. They bought 10 books on Amazon. And they started their own men's group. It's a 7-week study.
Love that.
More men are living in isolation. We're trying to do this by ourselves. It's like, no, go grab 5 buddies, grab 10 buddies, and let's have some real conversations. Me and you over 1 cup of coffee had a more in-depth conversation than some dudes will ever have with another dude. And so that's my challenge for men is look us up, follow me on whatever social media, Dadvoted, Instagram, all those things. And then look at the study course. And then, if there's opportunity for those Houston folks, I'd love to chat about speaking at your next men's event or men's breakfast, whatever it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin, man, thanks for joining us again. And you did mention, too, you said one-on-one development for dads. And I cannot stress that enough. I know I'm going to be reaching out to you for more development because, man, we all want to be better. We all want to be better husbands, fathers, leaders. And so this is a great opportunity. And you are phenomenal at what you do, man. So kudos to you for that. And if you like this episode, I'm going to ask that you leave a review. The more reviews that we have, the more these episodes get pushed out and allows us to reach the masses. We want to reach people and build more leaders and develop more dads. So Kevin, once again, man, thank you for joining us. Hopefully this isn't your last time on the podcast.
Man.
And thank you all for tuning into the Josh Parnell Leadership Podcast. Have a great day, everyone. Don't forget to smile today. Tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. I'm Josh Parnell, reminding you to keep being well.